What's up, YouTube? I am running way behind today. So I meant to do this at like 1 o'clock, but then I wasn't here. So it was very difficult to accomplish that task. And then I realized that I was absolutely not going to do the video that I was planning on doing today because it was super negative. All right. So squeeze me. Today, what I'm going to do is try not to move away from my microphone and make the volume go crazy. But I am also going to say welcome to everyone. And I want to introduce you to really uh, what I would don't know if I want to call him the inspiration for what's going on now, but with this channel and what we're doing now, which will eventually lead to the combined news program, is this dude. And let's try this like I know what I'm doing, is this dude. And take two. This dude, Russell Brand. So a lot of you might know who he is. He was well, depending on how you take him, he was either really funny or really annoying, and kind of like popped in and out of pop culture from time to time. But because he was strung out on drugs, he never really made that much of an impact. Well, he's no longer strung out, and he's been clean and sober for a long time. He's always been clearly an intelligent person, which is unfortunately happens to a lot of people who end up in drugs. Is they're very intelligent and they're kind of looking for a way to shut their brain off. Well, that works, by the way. I wouldn't recommend it in any way, shape, or form, but it does shut your brain off sometimes permanently. So therein lies the conflict. But Russell's got a lot of videos that go into who he was and how he lived and his, going through the process of apologizing and all that stuff. It's a great story, great story. But having said all of that, that ain't what we're going to be watching him for today. Uh, as some of you may know, and I think most people don't know, Russell does basically a daily show on YouTube and probably other formats as well. I know it from YouTube, where he brings forward stories and kind of goes in depth into what they are. Now, he doesn't generate these stories. He literally, this is all other people's stuff. And like me, does not claim to be an expert and does not claim to, be the person you should be following, but is just trying to bring information to light. Now, he is not the only person who does this, obviously, but he is one of the few people who has done it successfully and really has a pretty broad audience. So it was, to me, for someone wanting to get into this kind of a thing where it's more, interactive, great inspiration. So, what we're going to do is I'm going to take us over to Russell's YouTube page. And I've got his videos up in current order. And what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to go through and I'm literally going to try to pick a shorter video so that I can get this wrapped up by 2, which was my original intent. 30 minutes is actually the intent. So to keep it under 30 minutes, I'm going to try to find a short video and you can laugh along with me and learn, because I promise you, you are going to learn every video he puts out. It's very well researched, and he usually picks things that, again, they've just fallen beneath the cracks. So let's see here. Let's look at some times. Oh, come on, Russell. All right, let's see here. There's an 8:45. Gosh, I wish you guys could vote on this. Um, okay, I'm sorry. Let's do this one. This is right under 10 minutes, and we'll just let Russell speak for himself. Hopefully, there won't be
All right.
ads.
The Biden
Dang it.
administration announced today that it's suspending the implementation and
It's against the
enforcement
rules
of its
to download
unconstitutional
one to
vaccine
get
mandate for
past the
private sector
ads.
employers.
So I'm trying to be
Oh
good.
yeah, if you hate the system so much, why don't you come up with a better idea?
That's what people say to me all the time. That's why on my podcast, Under the Skin on Luminary, I have conversations every week to discuss new ideas and how we can enact real change locally and globally. In this conversation with Sarah Chase, I talk about anarcho-syndicalism. Is it a realistic proposition? Can we change centralized governmental forces? Can we get beyond the old divisions of left and right? We talked about how GDP growth, the growth of your national wealth, is a kind of busted flush of a measurement. Have a look at this clip between me and Sarah Chase, a conversation that originally happened on my podcast Under the Skin on Luminary, and stay to the end to tell me what you think, because I reckon she's a brilliant and innovative thinker. She lived in Afghanistan. She advised the Pentagon. She's seen real stuff. She's been deep inside the system. Stay with me, have a look at this, study it, and tell me at the end what you think about it.
Okay. So sorry about that. One thing that I forgot is he talks super duper fast. So, yeah. So you need to listen like very closely because he's going to blow through a lot of stuff. I've not seen this video. I have no idea what they're going to be addressing here. But one thing that he and I share in common, which we do not see eye to eye on a lot of things. So this is not like, I'm not waving his flag. Don't get me wrong. But I agree with his interpretation of how events are transpiring because he gets beyond the story, but the facade of the news story to get behind the motivation behind why is this happening, which is where the truth is at. You have to get past what you're being sold and get to the root of something to really understand it. So that's why we picked this one. Again, I'm not sure where this one's going to go. Hopefully this is going to be interesting. I'm afraid you never know. Live. We'll see. All right, Russell. What you got for us, brother?
I wondered
That's
if
in his
like
video,
this idea of
in case you're
breaking
wondering.
things down and sort of in a sense something as radical as the abandonment of certain economic principles that people don't like to countenance. I wonder if you, from your experience advising in government and working with these people, do you think that that has merit, that kind of way of thinking?
I think it does have merit. I don't think many of the elites that I have advised would say that it has merit. So that's the distinction. It's fascinating what you're saying. I went back when I wrote my most recent book on corruption in America to look at the last time in history that the world seemed to be so in the grip of these transnational, integrated, corrupt, or even kleptocratic networks.
Okay, I want to interrupt here real quick just to kind of, and again, I didn't know where this was going. So to kind of like maybe pull it back in for just 1 second here. What we're talking about is how that governments around the world have really within the same very short period of time have not only instituted measures for public health and safety, but they have far exceeded what was necessary, required, and in many cases even legal for them to do. So I believe what and this is kind of my take on this, is it was an opportunity was taken, and there's a philosophy that goes back many years that says, basically never let a good catastrophe go to waste. And unfortunately, I think what you're seeing in some cases is that you're seeing government agencies at every level are overstepping their legal boundaries to enact things because now they see this is now an opportunity for them to move forward with these restrictions and things like that are coming out. So, but anyway, I'm going to let them speak.
And I found the period between about 1870 and about 1935. And I hadn't expected to spend as much time and effort on that period of time as I ended up doing, because I found it so interesting because the parallels were almost identical. But at the time, there was a much greater consciousness of this kind of network corruption as the enemy on the part of most ordinary people. So I focused on the United States, but I think the same is true in the UK and the rest of Europe, that there were very sophisticated and courageous opposition movements, including the labor movement, and then including also political movements that were actually raising a lot of the issues you just did, including, and you said you're not an primitivist? One of the really interesting movements was the anarchist movement. And what's fascinating is we all assume that they wanted no government. And that's not what they wanted at all. They wanted something much closer to what you're talking about, what they called a cooperative commonwealth, where, different branches of industry would be owned by the people who worked in them and would interact through, representative delegations and things like that.
And honestly, what a lot of these people are, and I hear this from both sides of the aisle, okay, but it's put together differently. They package it a little differently. People do not want the government involved in their life. They want to be able to live their life, and they want to be able, as long as what they're doing is not preventing another person from exercising their rights, you should leave them alone. That was kind of the original idea. It's kind of the analogy they use, which is super silly, but if I could stand up, I would show you, is, I'm allowed to swing my arms around all that I want to until my hand comes in contact with your face. So you have a right to exercise whatever right that you're exercising until that interferes with another person exercising their rights. So whenever there's a conflict, then, you got to pull back. So what I know Russell, from listening to quite a bit of his stuff, is his idea is to really get rid of what we have, which is a generational wealth that controls the overwhelming majority of the money in this country. And it's not hard to see when you go through, and you can do this yourself. You can get on the internet and you can pull up a list of all of the major companies that are in the world, and who they own and who we're buying from. And so you realize that you've got, it's between like 5 and 7 companies that sell us everything that we buy in the store. If you go to like a box store that sells groceries and, clothing, it's just a handful of companies. And those companies are all owned by a handful of people. So do you see, all you have to do is really just kind of think about it. Most of the time, it's not things that we sit and think about. That's why I enjoy programs like this. This is not his typical program, by the way. This is from his podcast. He normally doesn't do stuff like this. But fortunate that for us, I think this has actually turned out to be pretty interesting. And it's information that people need to understand when it comes to what we're hearing. You do have to know, kind of in the back of your head, that they're all talking from the same points and they're all getting their stories from the same place. Therefore, there is a part of you has to question, well, are they really telling me the truth, or are they just telling me what they were told to tell me? So, get what I'm saying? All right, here we go.
And I don't think their model for a different type of economy was that thoroughly, carefully blueprinted, but it certainly was along the lines of what you're suggesting. And the other thing that's interesting is many of the reforms that they and the labor unions and another movement in the United States, which was farmers, way off in the countryside in their covered wagons, were coming together for meetings and for weekly, lectures and things like that. And they developed some of the most.
Okay. So can I point something out here that I think it seems like when in the divide that we have going on right now, people are surprised that when their life and livelihood is threatened, that they don't get together and figure out how to stop that from happening. I think, and it kind of it surprises me, but because one, it clearly shows if someone who has not put themselves in the position of the person they are trying to enforce this new legislation onto, because they would think differently. If they would put themselves in their shoes, they'd be like, well, man, I don't know. I might be pretty pissed. if somebody showed up at my doorstep and said, well, I'm going to take all your stuff because suddenly I decided I wanted it. That might make somebody mad. And what she's referring to here, and it's kind of the things that are going on now, is where the private individual is losing their rights and their ability to practice their liberties under the protection in the United States, so that some other entity can exert something, can make them do something, say something, not be able to go somewhere, not be able to do something because it's in their best interest, because it's in that corporation's best interest. And there is a name for a country who is run by the will of a corporation and not by the will of the people. But I can't think what that is. So you'll have to Google that.
Sophisticated potential solutions to what you're talking about, to the issues that we're raising here, several of which were in fact adopted. So I guess what I'm saying is, I think what you're suggesting has tons of merit. It requires, as you said, placing society's value on something other than zeros and in bank accounts. And you mentioned the GDP.
Well, whoa. I can already see this video is going to go way too long for me to pull this off. So, wait, a society that is not solely based on how much money is going to be in your bank account, a society that is not solely based on how good you look or how good the person you're with looks or how good your house or your car or your wedding ring or any of that stuff, your watch, what that's a society not based on that. We can't have that. See, the reason why we can't have that is because that doesn't sell airtime. That doesn't sell ad space. That doesn't get you to stand in line, on Black Friday and freeze your A off for 10 or 12 hours. I don't think anybody really did that this year. But you guys remember when we used to do that. Now we just sit on the computer and spend more money than we did when we stood in line, which, I mean, inflation and all that stuff. I get that. I was raised in a family of business owners. So I'm the last person in the world to slight a person for making a profit. But we're living beyond our means. We're in debt up to our freaking eyeballs. The country is in debt up to our eyeballs. Every administration that comes in just racks up the freaking debt. We just up and up and up and up and up. Why? Because, well, the people don't care because we're living the same lifestyle. So our government and us, we live the same way. So if someone does what you do, there's nothing wrong with what they're doing because you do it. Well, we know that in reality, that is a serious problem. And so Russell's solution, as he will tell you, and I'm not trying to speak for him, please, go to his site, go to his, I'm going to leave it actually up there. So that way I'm not trying to speak for him, but this is the information I have gleaned from his YouTube and from what he says that he believes is he calls it utopia. So that's what he's thinking. Unfortunately, where he and I differ is I come from a business background. And that's why I'm going to be like, well, yeah, Russ, that's a great idea. Something else that's a great idea is that a cheesecake wouldn't make me fat. That'd be a great idea. What would also be a great idea is that I wouldn't be able to tell how old I am by counting the wrinkles on my forehead. That would be great, but that's not how it is. He knows that. I know that really, what all of us want is idealistic, but I think there's nothing wrong with being idealistic. There's nothing wrong with having an expectation that may be beyond your grasp. It just makes you try harder. Isn't that what we're supposed to do? I remember I used to, I don't know if they still teach this or not. So this is not advice for exercise. Cause if you saw me, you'd be like, yeah, old dude ain't got no business teaching anybody about exercise. But the one thing they used to say when I was playing football in high school, at junior high, was that you have to work until you fail before your body provides any more, cellular support for your muscles, which kind of made sense. Of course, I was a kid, but in mentally and in society, I mean, it seems like that's necessity is always the mother of invention. And so, but you have to let it work. You have to be wanting to have a solution. You need to have a desire to create something for necessity to be the mother of invention. The invention is not the sitting and talking about it. The invention is the solution. And so that's what I'm hoping to do is I want to, like I said, I want to bring out voices. I'm running out of time very quickly. I want to bring voices to you that you may not know who they are. You may not want to listen to them because of who they are, or you didn't even know that they really were doing this kind of thing. Russell is one of these guys that even though he says repeatedly where he stands politically, he still has people constantly accusing him of being on the opposite side. And he's not an American, so he's in the UK, so it doesn't matter what his leanings are. But when you come and you are trying to find the truth of a matter, and he's not the only person doing this, there's people that would consider themselves to be conservative or liberal, that they are all coming to the same conclusion that the truth is not what we're being told. That anyone that sits and starts questioning what is being told to them, you have to start going, now, why exactly? Because if this and this are true, then why is this the decision that we have made? Um, there's nothing wrong with asking questions. I'm, my mother, God rest her soul, when I was a little kid, I would stand behind her, and every time she would say something, I'd go, "Why? Why? Why, mommy? Why? Why? Why?" Many, many years later, when I was 40, I was in school to get my hairdresser's license, and we were in the classroom. And every time my instructor would say something, I would look at her and go, "Why? Why?" And she told me when I was getting ready to leave the classroom, I'm not going to mention her name because I think she's left teaching. I'm kidding. She's still, anyway. But she said, it was over a decade. As long as I have been teaching hair students, you have by far been the most difficult student I have ever had. Because every time I find a new piece of information out, I want to know, well, why is that true? And then why is that true? Super annoying. It's great for having conversations with people because, it's good to kind of, sometimes people just need help getting to the bottom of why something's going on. But if you're like, in a relationship with me, you don't want somebody like that. Sorry. Yeah, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. So, all right. So very quickly running out of time here. So folks, if this is a content that you enjoy, I really enjoy doing this live setup. I do want people to come along. Please come along and comment. I've got the comments are always going to be up. And on the rebroadcast, comment down below. This is going to be a pretty regular basis for me. So if you like what we're doing, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. And also leave a comments down below. If there's any topic, if there is a video that you have seen, if there is a new story that has come across your desk, like my desk, 'cause I don't have a desk, then that you think would deserve some more airtime or that you'd like to see gone over, leave it down in the comments below. The video that I was originally intending to do today was sent to me by someone who watches the channel. I have like all of us, we all have lives going on, and a lot of times we can just miss stuff. And really, the kind of the method to the madness behind this is to bring out news stories that normally would not make the front page, but they're important anyway. And in this, I really want to kind of give, one, I wanted to do something that wasn't quite so serious. This is ended up being like super serious anyway, but if you are looking for content from someone who's looking at it from a more logical perspective, and let's see it from all sides, I definitely would recommend checking out Russell Brand's YouTube page. And then if you're into meditation, things like that, he's got another channel that does that too. So, and ironically, I've got another channel that's a similar vein. One channel does one channel does the other. And I was kind of surprised by that. But I was like, very cool. I like you even more, Russ, that you're a cool guy. So, all right, guys. Again, questions, comment, leave them down below. And I will see you all next time. Love y'all. Thanks for stopping in. Bye. I did it wrong again. Dang it. I need 2 buttons. All right. Bye, guys.